The Amazing World of Gumball has a plethora of different ships, but of course only a few of them had actual progressive storylines that, well, mattered, to put it simply. These ships are of course none other than Gumball and Penny, Darwin and Carrie, and of course Richard and Nicole. Okay, and maybe Louie and Granny JoJo. In this video I will be discussing these specific Gumball ships and their respective arcs throughout the series, all to answer one question, or actually two questions. These questions being, are Gumball ships actually good, and also are they maybe even the best ships in all of cartoon history? Gumball and Penny is one of the most popular cartoon ships, but there really isn't any deep analysis videos on their relationship. There's one by RT60 where he ranks all the relationships from the Amazing World of Gumball and briefly discusses Gumball and Penny, but that's about it. And so in this video we'll be taking a closer look at how Gumball and Penny really came to be and answering the question of why it is one of the biggest cartoon ships and maybe even the best. And so we begin with the episode titled The Pressure. In this episode we see the girls of Elmore Junior High in Molly's treehouse, and Masami then asks Molly what she does in there all day, and Molly responds saying that she watches the boys, which then leads to Masami saying that you don't watch boys and you kiss them, and the girls then begin to discuss their apparent boyfriends before Penny says that she wishes that she had one. Just before we pan to Gumball, who is currently trying to impress Penny by doing a skateboard stunt. But Tobuscus and Banana Joe then make a pact saying to always put pals before gals, and Gumball hesitates but joins the pact, but at the same time waves to Penny. The girls then ask Masami if she is a boyfriend, resulting in her to make up a lie that she's dating Darwin, and then she walks up to Darwin in the hall with the girls and makes him hold her notebook and makes it look like they are dating, which really upsets Darwin, and feeling like he betrayed his friend's pact, he then jumps out the window. Penny then comes up to Gumball asking him if he wants to walk her to the canteen, and Gumball clearly wants to say yes, but knowing that his friends were behind him, he tells her no and then jumps out the window as well. And then during lunch, Masami tries to kiss Darwin while he sits there uncomfortably, and I can't blame him. I felt so uncomfortable watching this scene, but Gumball then interrupts them asking what they're talking about, and Masami says that they were talking about how they were gonna kiss in the treehouse before ordering him to follow her, and before Darwin does, he whispers for Gumball to help him, scared as hell. Darwin then tries to break up with her, but she starts crying and makes him feel like a terrible person, instantly making him get back with her and say that he'll kiss her at the treehouse. My boy was getting straight up manipulated, but Gumball then goes with Penny as he needs to have a date to get into the treehouse to save Darwin, and already wanted to be with Penny anyway, so it was all working out for him. But Darwin then tries to leave but gets backed into a corner, and Gumball tries to go and save him, but Penny grabs him saying that she's glad that he came, causing Gumball and Penny to have this romantic scene as everything around them turns into space. But just as they're about to kiss, Tobuscus and Banana Joe cut down the treehouse, resulting in Gumball and Darwin to kiss instead. This episode sets up the idea of Gumball and Penny being an actual thing in the future pretty nicely, as well as kind of shows how their relationship may have an impact on certain friendships. In the episode of the day, Nicole asks the family if they have any riveting stories to tell, and Gumball says that Penny apparently asked him out on a date, which we then see happen as she asks him to come to her house, and Gumball is instantly love-struck, ignoring everything else that she had to say after that, which was actually the fact that she wanted him to come to her pet's funeral. So Gumball goes to Penny's house dressed up in what he at least saw as formal clothes, as he thought this was a date, but is then told it's a funeral. But then when he's told that it's for a pet, he starts laughing and says thank goodness it's not for a real funeral, obviously making Penny mad. But then Gumball finds out that the pet is alive as he opens the toilet seat to a big ass spider. Gumball then gets bit and throws the spider at Penny, and then the day is saved and everyone's happy as the spider is alive, but Gumball is then knocked out unconscious as he was actually bit multiple times. Penny then visits Gumball in the hospital saying that she brought someone who wants to say sorry, before revealing her pet spider, who then jumps on him. Bro really was out here paying the price of love. But anyways, in the episode of the night, Gumball gets his whole family to clean the house as Penny was coming over to work on a school project. But as soon as Penny's dad sees just how insane the Watterson family is, he just keeps driving, and I can't blame him. Gumball then decides that he's gonna prove that he's good enough for Penny to him, but nothing he does seems to change his negative outlook of him. Gumball then goes home only to see Penny on his porch saying since her dad said she can't see him, she just asked her mom. That was a W play by her, I'm not gonna lie. But Tobias then shows up and makes Gumball do a duel for her love, and things get out of hand really quickly, resulting in Penny to end up getting thrown into the middle of the road, where her dad then almost runs her over, but Gumball jumps in to save her, immediately making her dad thank him and see him completely different. But now Gumball's entire family doesn't like her dad at all because he almost ran him over and obviously drove a car into their house. But nonetheless, Penny and Gumball could finally be together in peace. Kind of. In the episode The Flower, we see Gumball watching Penny doing cheerleading and celebrating, only for it to then be revealed that all of it was in his imagination. And he actually dragged Darwin out in the rain to watch her, despite the fact that the two aren't even dating, which made him rightfully pretty upset, but Darwin then shrugs off his feelings about it for now, as he had to warn Gumball about Leslie, who was seemingly making a move on his girl. Gumball's jealousy then takes over him as like an actual split personality, and then tries to frame Leslie for crimes and even attempt to kill him. Eventually, Carrie got everyone to exercise the jealousy out of him, and the jealousy decided that it was gonna blow itself up so no one can have Penny, and the only way to make it not do so was for Gumball to just stop being jealous, but Gumball continued to believe that Penny was dating Leslie, and then it's finally revealed that Leslie and Penny are not dating and are actually cousins. Ending the episode with Gumball learning a good lesson on what he should not do in a relationship, even though, once again, Gumball and Penny aren't even officially dating yet. But anyways, in the episode The Dream, Gumball has a dream that slowly becomes a nightmare as he sees Darwin more or less steal Penny from him, showing that despite what occurred in the last episode, bro still got that jealousy. But Gumball then begins to treat Darwin like shit because of it, which is just very stupid and messed up, and then it gets taken way too far, as he offers Penny 2 cupcakes, a blue one and an orange one, blue representing him and orange representing Darwin. Penny says that she wants the orange one, and so Gumball forces her to eat the blue one, and then of course she's allergic to blueberries, and so she tells Gumball to get the pills from her locker, and of course there's blue pills and orange pills, and Gumball, despite her saying the orange ones were the ones that she needs, of course he gives her the blue pills instead. Bro deadass almost killed the love of his life over a dream. But Gumball and Darwin then enter each other's dreams and search for the right one until eventually finding it, and Gumball tries to get Darwin to not kiss Penny, and then right when it's about to happen, Gumball finally manages to stop it by turning Penny into Sussy, leaving Darwin to now be mad at Gumball for making him do that, and Gumball now being the one saying that it's just a dream, no need to get mad, even though he just did that to Darwin the whole episode. This is way more of a Gumball and Darwin episode than a Gumball and Penny episode, but I figured I would still discuss it as it's still about Penny despite her only being in the episode to almost get taken out. In the next episode titled The Shell, Gumball and Penny are doing a play at school together, and Penny improvises the two doing a kiss scene to shock the audience, but Gumball fucking slams his head into her, and this creates a crack which she then begins to panic over as a yellow light shines through her shell, and Gumball tries to ask her about it, but she avoids it, and Darwin persists, and then she says that it's apparently the real her. They then head to Penny's house to tell her dad, which goes about just as bad as you would expect it to, with her dad grounding her and saying that she can't be herself because it's dangerous, and saying that he knows what's best for her. But Gumball stands on business and actually yells back at him, resulting in him to get kicked out by her dad, and he then goes home crying before Penny shows up at his window and says her dad is making her move to another school. Gumball then says that that's messed up and that she should come out of her shell, and Penny says that he might not like the real her. But of course Gumball says that that's not true, and that if she does come out of her shell, they'll deal with whatever comes next together. Penny then breaks out of her shell, revealing a golden fairy, but as Gumball is absolutely shocked by her appearance, she takes it as he didn't know what to say because she was a monster, and so with that she shapeshifts into a monster and runs away. Gumball then chases her, and Penny's dad then shows up and calls her a freak, a pig, and a monster, and then Gumball yells at him and tells him to shut up and to think about what he just said, and continues to chase her. Gumball has actually been standing on an unnecessary amount of business in this episode, but Gumball then finds Penny and tells her that he was trying to protect her, and she finally sees that he doesn't see her how these other people do or might, and Gumball then kisses her just to make the point even clearer as she shapeshifts back into her normal self, which then causes Richard to cry, and I can't even blame him. This episode gives such a good message on being yourself. The whole coming out of your shell concept is so good, and Gumball's persistence to make her believe she wasn't a monster and that he really would love her no matter what was actually beautiful. This definitely is the best episode of their relationship arc, but there still is a few more to discuss. In the episode The Burden, Gumball and Darwin get assigned to look after the school pet on the same day that Gumball was planning to go on a date with Penny, and so he has to take it on the date with him, in which he uses to his advantage to prove to her that he is marriage material. Gumball then comes home seeing Darwin upset, but tells him that he needs to give the pet a chance, and so Darwin then takes the pet to the park, where he then expresses that he's actually really jealous of all of the time that Gumball has been spending with Penny. In the episode The Bros, Gumball asks Darwin if he had to pick someone to do something really special for, who would it be? And the two then say the answer at the same time, and of course Gumball says Penny and Darwin says Gumball, causing Darwin to storm storm off in anger before yelling that he's not jealous of Penny, which as we already established in the last episode, he most definitely is. Darwin then tries to dig up dirt on her, but gets caught by her every time until eventually she tells him to have lunch with her and Gumball as he clearly wanted to talk. Darwin then completely invades in on the two's relationship, taking the third wheel status to a whole other level. And then during gym, he just smacks the basketball out of Penny's hand like he was LeBron. Bro was giving her the ultimate disrespect. This then leads to Penny telling Gumball that they need space until the two work out whatever's going on between them, causing him to obviously be very mad at Darwin, but also break down crying. Darwin then apologizes and sets up a date for the two to make it up to him, but Gumball puts a ring in Penny's drink, wanting to propose to her, which then causes her to choke, and meanwhile, Darwin also sets a fire outside, but Darwin then saves both of them, and Gumball asks her to marry him, in which she says no because they're 12 years old, but still finds his proposal adorable and says that the two don't need a ring to show that they love each other. Gumball and Darwin then marry each other, ending Darwin's jealousy as it shows the two can still be friends even if he is with a girl. Very weird but wholesome at the same time. In the next episode titled The Romantic, Gumball is chatting with Penny on his PC and overreacts as she only sends him one heart eye emoji rather than the 3 that he normally receives, and so he sends her on a quest to find multiple clues, each one almost killing her, until eventually getting cornered by animals in the forest where her and Gumball first kiss, where Gumball then jumps down to save her, but when he tells her that everything that he just put her through was only because she used one emoji instead of 3, she transforms into an angry beast and easily was able to take down all the monsters, but still was nonetheless angry with Gumball and tells him that he needs to quit with these big gestures. But of course, right as she says that, he already had Darwin prepare fireworks for her that said that he loves her, in which she responds with a sigh and a smile as she can't not appreciate his efforts to show her that he truly does love her despite everything. In the episode The Transformation, Gumball goes to Penny's as she asks him to help resolve a sensitive issue regarding her parents. And things get tense very quickly as we see the problem is that her dad still wants her to be in her shell. And after a lot of back and forth yelling at one another, the decision on whether she goes back into her shell or doesn't is placed upon Gumball. And of course, to make it even more difficult for him to decide, her dad threatens him and makes him think that he was gonna kill him if he doesn't take his side. And Penny's mom does this as well, offering him a cookie that looks like him dead, which was just really creepy. But Gumball then tells a story to show them that you can't just keep saying the same things over and over and expect one another to change. It's just a waste of time and nothing will progress. They can't change one another's opinions, so they just have to accept it and move on. Season 2, Episode 3, The Promposal. Carrie asks Darwin out to prom in a way that Gumball doesn't think is hardcore enough, and because of this, Penny doesn't know just how to ask him in fear of being rejected, as her way of asking him out was originally through the means of this cute but very low effort poem. And so in an attempt to ask him during lunch, she puts on this weird realistic bag, as we then see her just become live action as well. But Gumball, seeing this, more or less completely shits on it, not knowing that it's her. And Tobias then comes in and tries to ask her, but then quickly gets pushed aside, which was pretty funny. And then the rest of the episode follows Darwin trying to help Penny, in which he actually surprisingly suggests for her to not ask Gumball to the prom at all, saying that it'll only lead to someone getting hurt. But hearing this, Penny does the ultimate promposal by getting tackled by footballers, ran over by ambulances, electrocuted, and seemingly killed, fully faking her death and making poor Gumball cry his eyes out just before revealing that she's alive. It really makes you realize just how meant for each other Gumball and Penny really are. But Penny then takes the joke one step too far by then asking Tobias to prom in front of him, which then just literally kills him, as we then end the episode with them explaining everything that just occurred to Gumball, who is now in a hospital bed. This episode was a fun one. My only wish was that we actually got to see the prom after all of the effort spent on Penny trying to ask Gumball in a way that he would be happy with. Darwin's story begins in the season 1 episode, The Party, as Tobias invites everyone to a party, but his sister Rachel says that if they want to come, they have to bring a date. But Darwin doesn't even know what a date is. And so we ask Gumball, and then Robert comes and explains it to him. And Darwin then gives Gumball some suggestions on who he thinks would be a good idea for him to go with. Of course, with the first pick being Penny, but then Darwin suggests Carrie. Regardless, Gumball ends up going with Tina, and Darwin just ends up going alone. But after he finds Tobias' sister Rachel outside crying as none of her friends showed up to the party, as well as because everyone was also trashing their parents' house, Darwin says they'll clean it up, and then when he does, Rachel asks him why he doesn't have a girlfriend, and Darwin asks what he would need a girlfriend for, and then Rachel kisses him, opening his eyes to a whole new world. And then in the episode The Pressure, Carrie would lie about having a boyfriend to her friend, friends, showing both Carrie and Darwin somewhat both wanted a relationship. And then in the season 2 episode Halloween, Gumball, Anais, Darwin, and Carrie all hang out as Carrie had invited them to a party, in which Darwin actually wanted nothing to do with, as he was rightfully scared. But then after entering the creepy house where the party was being held, Carrie tells them to drink only 1 drop of this potion that would supposedly make them part ghost. And this then makes them be able to see all the other ghosts, quickly changing Darwin's mind on the party. But after the other ghosts realize that they're mortals, they drink the rest of the potions, which fully turns them into ghosts. And as soon as Darwin does, he instantly kisses Carrie without a second thought, which then makes Carrie blush. Gumball and Darwin then go through town and mess with people, but Carrie then tells them if they don't get back to their bodies by midnight, that they'll be stuck as ghosts forever. But the midnight bells then go off, and they start running to get their bodies back, as well as to save Anais, whilst the other ghosts try to stop them. And in the midst of all of this, Carrie ends up saving Darwin, and then they end up getting their bodies back. But then Nicole shows up, and as they talk, we see that they're all actually in the wrong bodies. But they say it's okay because Carrie can fix it. But then Carrie just dips, giving her not the best first impression to Darwin's mom. But continuing on, in the season 3 episode The Mirror, Gumball gets an email from someone named the Snatcher, saying that if he doesn't forward it to 10 other people, he'll be cursed. But Gumball just deletes the message. But then when he asks Carrie about it, she gets scared and teleports away. And Gumball then loses all of his friends and his girlfriend, making him start to believe that this curse may be real. And so they visit the witch, who then tells them that the Snatcher fell in love with a ghost after seeing her in a mirror. And after doing an incantation that allowed the living to touch ghosts, he was forced to live the cursed life of being trapped in a mirror, and ever since has been looking for someone who can take his place. And Carrie then shows up and tells them the same thing, but that the Snatcher and the ghost had a child, and that child is her. The Snatcher then shows up and tries to kill everyone, but they manage to defeat him. And then he steps through the mirror, now back to normal. And with Carrie and her dad reunited, they go to hug, but of course he falls right through. And he then falls out the window, which kills him, turning him into a ghost, making it so they could actually hug, which was pretty wholesome. And Gumball, and specifically Darwin, helping her bring her dad back to normal would definitely be a big reason for the two's relationship to grow. Bringing us to the season 4 episode titled The Scam, where we would get our biggest hint so far to Carrie and Darwin actually becoming a thing. The episode follows Gumball trying to convince Darwin to do a ghost hunting scam with Carrie in order to get some candy, in which at first Darwin refuses, but then Gumball says,
"Not even to get close to Carrie. If she's gonna eat all that candy, she'll need a body to possess."
in which makes Darwin blush and imagine the two together. And then once they have the candy, and Carrie asks Darwin if she can use his body, she says this whilst blushing, and then Darwin tries to make his insides more inhabitable. But then the monster they used to scare people in their scam showed up, and Carrie says that she will sacrifice her own life by marrying it to save them, which Darwin does not take well to. And so Gumball makes his own sacrifice of giving the monster the candy he had to kill it. But the ending of this episode left Carrie and Darwin fans only asking for more, as before they leave, they share an interesting interaction, showing that the two clearly weren't truly saying whatever they wanted to say to each other, whilst trying to do so at the same time.
Bye.
Bye.
Unless you're hungry.
Not really. What was left of that candy looked pretty well digested.
Oh, right. Never mind.
Or we could just get an ice cream.
I'd like.
Come on already.
But then finally, in the season 5 episode titled The Matchmaker, after multiple episodes of build-up, fans finally got the episode they had been waiting for, as we see Darwin crying singing a song about a girl, who Gumball then comes to the conclusion is Terry, as he finds a picture of her on the computer. And Gumball then asks Carrie if she will help him make Terry fall in love with him, which clearly makes her upset. And Gumball even actually tells her and acknowledges the fact that he thought that he was into her. Regardless, Carrie then says that she'll help Gumball, but then of course makes all of his plans fail, as she doesn't want Darwin to date Terry. Eventually, Darwin does go to express his feelings in a way to her, but as Terry is right next to her, Carrie and Gumball continue to assume that this was all about her. Carrie then tells Gumball that she likes Darwin, and Gumball apologizes and even tries to hug her, which makes Carrie realize that if she truly loves Darwin, she shouldn't try to ruin his chances of being happy, even if it is with someone else. So Carrie and Gumball then make a love potion and use it on Terry and Darwin, and
I can still see.
But when Gumball tells Darwin that he was the cause of this and mentions the picture of Terry that made him think he was in love with her in the first place, Darwin tells him that it was actually a picture of Carrie and that she just doesn't show up on pictures as she's a ghost. And so Gumball tells Carrie, and then the two try to break the two up, but the only thing that actually manages to snap Darwin out of it is when he sees Carrie crying. Carrie then finally asks Darwin out, and then the two kiss, ending the episode, giving fans exactly what they had wanted and had been waiting for so long. But then in the last Darwin and Carrie focused episode in the series, we see Darwin and Carrie on a date in which we get to see all the good and all the bad things that entail with their relationship, such as how they can't eat together, how one has legs and the other doesn't, one phases through things while the other doesn't, both see the worlds in completely different ways, as well as one likes rock music and the other doesn't. But despite all this stuff, we still see that the two laugh all of this off and still have a great time being together. But then we see that Carrie actually had a boyfriend before Darwin named Azriel, who shows up whilst they're at the arcade, and Carrie says that the two should hang out. And Gumball, seeing this, asks Darwin what he's gonna do about it, taking Darwin to step in on the two hanging out, in which we get this beautiful guest animated scene. But anyways, we then see that Carrie just simply is friends with her ex and isn't cheating or anything that Gumball assumes. And we also see that Darwin trusts Carrie and didn't think that she was in the slightest. And so Gumball then apologizes to the two, ending the episode with the two's relationship on a really good note, honestly. But of course, despite this, fans would still want to see more episodes and interactions between the two. And so in the new Gumball series, The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball, we were actually given just this, with an episode titled The Letter. Darwin writes Carrie a romantic letter, and Gumball warns them that she might react to it badly since she's literally from the underworld. But despite this, he still puts it in her locker, and then right on cue, Penny and Carrie come walking through the hallway, and Gumball and Penny of course run toward each other whilst literally rubbing their affection in Darwin's face. And Carrie gets grossed out by this, and Penny says that Carrie hates it when people show affection, and Carrie says that she doesn't hate it but finds it cringy, nerdy, and gross, which of course crushes Darwin. Gumball then tries to help him out by saying what if it's in a really cute way, like saying I love you, but Carrie then takes over his body and just slams him against the lockers before saying to never say that to someone from the underworld, just as he predicted might happen if Darwin did. So they then try to get the letter back from her bag, which Gumball then gets eaten by, but manages to escape from by being even grosser than it somehow. But they then instantly get the letter stuck on Hector, but he comes in clutch, giving Darwin back the letter. But as Darwin began the dance in happiness, Miss Simeon called him to the front of the class so he could read it to everyone. But as he begins to read it, it's quickly shown that this isn't his letter and actually just was a love letter from Hector telling Darwin why it wouldn't work out. But this then of course makes Carrie think that he was cheating on her, which causes her to freak out, creating a bunch of cracks in the school with monsters coming out of them. She then calls Darwin a Lothario, but then we cut from this intense scene between the two to just Gumball asking what a Lothario is, with this really just awkward moment of them standing still waiting for him to finish. Darwin then just continues ignoring him and tells Carrie that the letter was a whole misunderstanding and that he actually wrote her a letter saying that he loves her but was scared to give it to her after hearing that the people from the underworld hate hearing that. But Carrie then takes over Gumball's body and kisses him as Gumball. I don't know why they did this. We saw Carrie kiss him without having to go into anyone's body before, so this was just a very weird decision that didn't make much sense. Gumball then starts awkwardly monologuing, and Gumball and Darwin just hug for like 2 minutes straight before Carrie actually leaves his body and says that he ruined the moment, which he most definitely did. This episode felt kind of like a reset of Carrie's character, and also sadly kind of retracted everything that happened in the drama, with the statement being that the two trusted each other. But yeah, in this episode they just didn't. And once again, Carrie going into Gumball's body to kiss Darwin, despite us seeing the two kiss without having to do that before, was pretty weird. But regardless, this being the end of Darwin and Carrie's relationship for now, as there's no more episodes to discuss, still does a pretty good job at showing that the two will have more episodes later on, showing that this episode at least made them closer overall, which I truly do hope that we get to see. As Gumball is fed up with Carrie going into his body when she goes on dates with Darwin, they decide to go to the underworld to find the Necroprancer's tomb to read a spell that would grant any ghost a body of their own. The underworld just being literal hell filled with villains, TV executives, creepy guys, and more. But they then go to the Necroprancer's tomb, fighting off different enemies that get in their way, before arriving and meeting this demon, who then asks them what the most shameful act they ever committed is, and Gumball and Darwin of course tell him the truth, but Carrie then just drops the door on him as they head in. But as they read the spell, Carrie tries to stop them from doing so, and then when they do read it, it doesn't work because Carrie's heart's desire isn't true. But as Gumball and Darwin are about to be killed, Carrie reveals that she likes being a ghost and that that's who she is. But of course, hearing this, Darwin is unfazed. He just wants his girl to be happy no matter what, saying that they'll figure something else out as they're soulmates. As we then end the episode with the solution they've settled on for now being her going inside of Darwin's body instead of Gumball's, which is at least somewhat better. I really wonder if one day the option they change to will be Darwin becoming a ghost himself. Maybe being an opposite to this episode of instead of Gumball not wanting to put up with it, maybe Darwin won't eventually either, and maybe will want to be his own person while still continuing to, of course, be with Carrie. It would make for a really good final episode for the two's relationship, honestly. But nonetheless, this episode was a big step up in comparison to last season's Darwin and Carrie episode, as people actually hated that episode, or at least the ending of it, the childhood of Richard Watterson. We only see Richard's childhood a few times in the show, such as in the episode The Man, where his mom reveals the fact that his dad left him when he was a kid, which we then see actually happen in the episode The Signature. Besides that, from these episodes and a few others, we know that his mom was scarily overprotective of him, to the point where even when he's an adult, he's scared of her. So yeah, his childhood wasn't exactly the best, but thankfully this all led to him getting fat and stupid, resulting in him to one day find himself stuck in a log, where he then stumbles upon his future wife, Nicole, who also didn't have the best childhood or parents in general as well, as we see in the episode The Choices. Gumball, Darwin, Anais, and Richard are all begging Nicole for food, and of course, being the absolute idiots they are, distract her, which causes a fire, leading Nicole to ask herself, where did she go wrong, before saying that it all started with Richard, as we then get a flashback to Nicole's childhood, and we quickly see that she had terrible parents growing up, as they bring up her report card and she says that she got perfect A's, but they say not in gender, as she put F, obviously because she's a female, but they just say that being a girl is not an excuse, like they are actually stupid. And then they get in a car crash, and Nicole asks how much time she has, but then her mom just starts listing the amount of time until she graduates, until she gets her diploma from law school, and until she marries a doctor. Literally all they care about is her being successful. It's really sad. But Nicole then runs to go to her tournament, also running past a bunch of guys who want to ask her out or just try to get in her way, but then she realized that she was lost, but then also found Richard in a log, as we then flash back to the future, realizing that this was the moment that led her here, causing her to believe that if she had gone down any other different path, things might have ended up different. As we see, if she literally just went left instead of right, she would have beat the tournament, graduated school, got super rich, became president, and then literally like a tyrant ruler, but then also hated by everybody. She then imagines if she listened to Banana Bob's song, as we then see a future where her and him got married, as she slowly just goes insane. She then imagines listening to Tobias' dad, as we see them get married, and that he would have forced her to be just someone she isn't, and once again drove her insane. She imagines she'd listen to Mr. Small, but then she ends up dead. And even if she didn't step on the butterfly, she would have choked on it and once again died. As she listened to the robber guy and got a ride from him, she would have died as well. And all of this causes Nicole to realize that there was no other way around this. She was meeting Richard that day no matter what. This was destiny. Nicole then tells Richard that she has to go to her tournament, and Richard asks her why, and she says because she has to fight, and once again he asks her why, and that she has to be the best so people would like her, and once again he asks why, and then says that people already like her. And as she asks who, of course he starts blushing, which causes her to start blushing, which was really cute. The bell to the tournament then goes off, and Nicole realizes that it's too late and it's over, and that she has to go home empty-handed. And she starts crying, but Richard then gives her a nut to cheer her up, which was also really cute. She then asks him what she should do with her life, and he says that she should start living it, which was such a good response. This scene is like the perfect example that Richard is dumb but can be really mature and give really good advice out of nowhere, which is really impactful, which is why I honestly love his character so much. But before continuing Nicole and Richard's story, I also want to state that during this time period, Nicole also trained alongside her friend Yuki and beat her in a tournament. It's kind of important Nicole lore, as it answers why she's such a beast throughout the series. We then get to see the two story from this point to the future, with how they started dating, how Richard met their parents, and of course how they disapproved of him, how it resulted in Nicole leaving her parents' house, as well as Richard getting kicked out of his, yet how despite everything the two still supported each other, going from living in a crummy apartment to getting married and having a kid, to finally buying the house together, to seeing Gumball walk for the first time, just fully watching them blossom into these great parents that are so much better than theirs. I personally would say that that Gumball really does have the best ships in any cartoon ever, but be sure to let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments down below. As with that said, that is going to be the end of the video, so consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next one, whenever that is.